Welcome to day 18 of World Watercolor Month, where the prompt is one I'm going to ignore. It's diabolical, and I don't want to paint anything diabolical. So there you go. I'm just going to paint what I feel like, and I'm using the Daniel Smith color prompt for the day, which is transparent brown oxide. I'm going to compare it to yellow and red transparent oxide. And this is my inspiration piece. I did this in my Nature Journaling by Faith journal, which I'll tell you about in a few minutes in this video. And this is the painting that I'll do once we get the swatching done, because I thought it would be interesting to see what it would look like to only have these three paints. And I kind of look at how dark they'll each get, how they perform, etc. So we'll do a comparison of some techniques using these three transparent oxide colors. So first is the swatching, and I'm going to try to swatch these so that I can get some granulation, or at least an idea how much granulation you get. A little block of paint is often not going to show you what you get. I like to see, does it granulate more when it's transitioning from the thicker paint to the thinner? Does it granulate in that thinner wash? Or, like exactly how does that work? So the idea here is not to get a smooth wash, but just to see where that granulation happens. And doing it with my nice big brush is going to put the most paint out there to try to get that granulation to happen. Here I didn't get much of a smoothness down there at the bottom. I was trying to lift some of it up, so I cleaned my brush off, shook off the excess water, and then sucked a little bit out of it. Transparent red oxide has been my replacement for burnt sienna for quite some time, and it hasn't really proved itself to be a granulator in the ways that I normally typically use it, but it will accent granulation in something that I mix it with, if that makes sense. So we'll see how all this works out in the painting. So this is the transparent brown oxide, the color of the day. And after I dried them and peeled off all the tape, I can show you what they look like here. So the two on the left have more granulation than the red, as I mentioned. Um, and depends on what you're doing and whether you need granulation, whether you want it, and whether you want it in certain mixes. So the inspiration for today's subject comes from the fact that the Faith Journaling Collective workshop comes up this week. And today, well, actually the 20th, depending on what day you're watching this, on the 20th of July, 2026 is your last chance to get the early bird pricing, which is only $37. And you get a ridiculous amount of stuff for that $37. If you click on the link in the description, you're going to find out exactly how much you get for it. It's kind of crazy. But anyway, I have a page that's exclusive to this workshop that is not seen by anybody else except for those who sign up for this freebie section in the next couple of days. On the 21st and 22nd is the actual workshop. This is not part of that workshop, but it is another page that I created in there and is my reason for working on a deer painting today. So as I mentioned, link is in the doobly-doo, the description below the video. So let's get to the painting, and I'm going to start with the background wash. And sometimes I do the background wash first, because if I screw that up, then that kind of tells me that the painting's going to go south. And sometimes I'll continue with it anyway, but at least I know that I've messed something up. But also in this particular case, I wanted to watch how these paints perform. And it's going to be a lot easier to see what they're doing in a bigger area rather than trying to paint something that's under control like the deer itself. So I'm just kind of throwing in these three colors. And in the photograph, you can kind of see it's a bokeh-ish background, which is one of my favorite things to paint because it's this kind of background that has something in it and yet nothing in it, if that makes sense. It puts the focus on the subject and not on whatever's going on behind it. So I'm just playing around with taking these three colors and painting them so that they start to run together and form the outer edge of the deer. So this is also, if you've done this before, called negative painting. And I know that you think of negative painting as that painful thing that you have to do when you want to leave something white. Well, if you've painted a background before you've painted the focal point of your painting, then you have done negative painting. So don't fear it. So I wanted to create a little of that feeling that there's something else going on in the background. So I stuck my finger into a baby wipe and just did some dabbing off, because these colors are also non-staining. That usually doesn't mean getting all the way back to white, but it means you can do some lifting with it. So I not only lifted color, I painted a little back in. The mixes in my dishes are all one type of value. They're all like a mid-tone. And I normally have a couple of different values mixed up in my palette. So how am I going to do multiple values in a painting like this? Well, I'm going to start by putting in a little of the red and a little of the yellow, letting them mix in the eyes. And in order to paint that really dark section of the eyes, I'm going to use paint straight out of the tube. The brown has the darkest value of the three. So painting a little bit of it in straight from the tube, really, really thick paint, is going to keep it from moving and retain some of those light values that I'd already painted with the wetter paints. To paint the ears, I need to treat them each differently, because one is in the sunshine and is backlit, and the other is in shadow. And whatever's causing that shadow, we don't know. Whether it's just the direction it's turned, that's most likely. So I'm using a very wet version of the red and the yellow to create the ear in the front. And I'll do kind of the same, but a little thicker mixture. I just had some water in my brush when I was um, dipping it in for the left ear, which is actually his right ear. So, yeah. And just putting thicker paint over here on the right-hand side. I'm going to add another layer with deeper values later, but at least this is going to set the mid-tone of the ears, and it's going to be significantly darker than the other one. So always pay attention to that. Don't just assume that because one ear is one particular color, whether it's a pink or a red or whatever, you're not always going to have the same thing on the other ear. I'm going to create a multicolor underpass on the fur. And that's not like an overpass, it's an underpass. It's painting all the lighter and mid-tone to light washes that are underneath of the darker values that are going to go on top. And if you would like to see the underpass on the deer in the sketchbook, you'll see a little bit clearer how that underpass can sort of carry the values and the colors across the deer. It didn't happen as much here because there's not as much of a, I guess, giant transition, because the other one had antlers in it, and I included the antlers and everything in one big wash. So there's not a lot of step out photos for that one. I just happened to remember to take, I think it was 3 photos along the way. So if you'd like to see more on that, go over to my Substack. But you can see I'm just changing colors. I started with the yellow on the sunshiny highlight side, put in some of the brown, a little bit of the red, and I'm just going back and forth between the different colors, leaving the whiter areas. Now, these are not white whites because they're in shadow, but we can put some value into those later by glazing, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But for now, I'm just leaving it white, and I'm also leaving whites around, of course, all the highlights and a little bit on this right-hand side. Even though I don't see a whole lot of it, there's a few little bits of fur there sticking out that are catching light. I just decided I wanted a little more separation between the deer and the background behind it. And then I've added some darker of the brown value into the nose, and then kind of making not necessarily a full wash over the backside, because I want to have the option for that to feel really sunny. And I want to be able to change that later if I desire. But for right now, I wanted to leave it mostly white. And I did add a light yellow wash to the neck just to indicate that's going back a little into shadow. So next test is to paint direct from the tube. I wanted to see if any of these colors were dark enough that they could act as their own black. I don't like to use black in a painting unless I'm actually painting something that is black. I like to mix a really dark, almost black color from something else that's in the painting. And this transparent brown oxide is pretty good for a dark. I wanted to paint this entire deer without using any other colors. If I wanted this to go and be more of a neutral blackish color instead of brown, I could add a little blue to it, and I'm pretty sure that would work really great. But as a color by itself, it doesn't do too bad a job at being a really nice dark. But if you put it in your palette and you have any water mixed with it, it's going to lighten a bit. So you might want to have your tube handy so that you can always be ready if you need that little tiny pop of real dark, dark, dark value. So let's test the transparent red oxide. And this one, since it's in my palette, I know it does do a fairly decent dark, but it tends to want to mix with something else to get really dark. And then the transparent yellow oxide is going to be the one that is going to have some struggles with it. It's a color that does not really become a really deep, deep dark value at all. So I'm just going to switch to using other colors to paint in some of the little bits of fur that I want to include in the painting. And, that's perfectly fine to do. It's just good knowledge to have when you're looking for whether or not you can use a particular color that you choose for the grouping for your painting as your darkest value. Are you going to have to mix it? And are you including colors in that palette for your painting? And I'm not talking about your palette, but the palette for your painting so that you can mix something really dark if you need it. If you enjoy diving into a color this way, I'm going to be doing this as a bonus pop-up live stream on Substack on Wednesday, July 22nd, 10 a.m. Pacific time. And yeah, the prompt is cardboard and the color is goethite or goethite. I haven't decided how that's pronounced yet. I'll find out officially and let you know on Wednesday. I hope you can join me. Link's going to be in the doobly-doo, and it's free. So then I discovered something else when I was using these little bowls is that in order to get some of the darks that I really wanted in the fur, I had to kind of root around in the bowl itself for thicker paint. And I found that as it dried more, the longer I was painting, and since I did two paintings from these bowls, one of them was in the sketchbook and the other was in this particular painting, some of the paint had dried a bit. And so I could kind of, swoosh around in the bowl to get thicker pigment. Typically in my palette, I'll keep a mixture of, either value shift or the the um the hue shift. So sometimes something that's a little warmer on one side and a little cooler on the other. Other times it's thicker paint so I can get a deeper value versus watered out thinner paint. So in this particular case, I was stuck with trying to figure out how to find those really darks without going to the paint tube because I knew I had plenty of paint in those little bowls. And I am going to have to find other things to paint with these three colors so I can clean out the bowls. If you have ideas on what I should paint, let me know in a comment. But I'm just going to then start running around the rest of the painting, adding deeper values on top of what I've already got here. Because you notice as soon as I put in some of those really darks, everything else started getting lighter, which is great because I want that background to be lighter. I want the deer to be more intense. So I'm going to add more mid values across the painting. And doing that just means adding more that is in kind of a wet wash. You don't want to do this with really thick paint because that would be more of adding details. But if you want to add something that feels very loose and watercolory, then just have a mixture that's going to have enough water in it that it'll move nicely. And here I'm using a lot of water and then dropping in a little extra from the mix so that I can get that little bit of deeper, darker value out at the tip of the ear, that sort of thing. So just kind of playing around with it, nurse it around the ear and get it to work the way I want it to. And then we're going to talk about glazing a little bit. It's a term I haven't used here on this channel very much, but I've used it in classes and used it in other YouTube videos on my old channel. And that is taking a color that's going to be shifting the overall color a little bit. And I'm using that yellow, the transparent yellow oxide, to go over some of this. And then I can switch to a little bit of glazing with the transparent red oxide. I mean, you can do multicolor glazes and shift different parts of the painting. So part will get a little more intense in one color or another. The glazing also makes sure that the areas that I want to kind of fade into shadow, like that chin, can fade because now it's got some value in it. But why didn't I do that in the first place? Why did I leave it white in the first place? Well, because I wanted to show you how to glaze, but also sometimes the glazing sort of pulls some unity back into the painting because you can paint that yellow over top of something, over top of some of that red, and pull it into being a color more like what you want the whole painting to feel like. So moving on, we're going to do a little bit more of the glazing basically, but I'm just knocking back some of the highlights because I left a lot of white highlight, didn't want quite that much blown out. And so I'll just kind of play around with adding a few strokes here and there. And then gouache whiskers. I tried to paint around some of them and I was successful, but then I realized there were some that were going to be right in front of the entire face. And that's way too hard to paint around. So I just used some gouache to do that. And since I mentioned classes, I want to mention an update on our World Watercolor Month fundraising that we've been doing. I always offer a percentage of my classes as a donation to the International Child Art Foundation. Well, this year we are abysmally behind. We normally will send, usually around $2,000, sometimes more than that, sometimes a little less. But this year we only just got to 200. Yeah, that's a very, very small amount. And, I'm not looking to make anybody feel guilty if you don't have any money. I know we're all struggling, but if you've been thinking about taking a class, and it's any of my classes, you can also buy any of my paintings. This painting's for sale on my fine art shop. It would be fantastic if you made any of those purchases during the month of July if you'd like to help out the charity. I also would like to know from you, what do you think of these transparent oxide paints? They look very different and even more granulating when used in a regular context like this in a painting rather than just swatches on a piece of paper. Can you see how much we can't learn from just swatching blocks? I just find that only somewhat helpful to get me started, not in order to decide what I like about a painting. So if you're interested in the Faith Journaling Workshop Summit, that's coming up this week. So mark your calendars, go over to the website, links in the doobly-doo, and that tells you all you need to know about how to get involved in either signing up or just how to attend those 2 free days this week. And I will see you all next week, but before I go, I have to do what I got to do. How do you let a deer know that you like her? You fawn over her. All right. I will talk to you guys later. Bye.